Shellyse TV.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh.
Hey everybody, I'm back to talk about the latest episode of Rob and China. Let's get right into this episode, shall we? Okay, now, in this episode, let's talk about China and Kim. Now, y'all, I don't know how I feel about this. Okay, so I know that China and Kim, they were best friends at one point in time. Okay, I get it, I understand it. But when China wants to sit down and have a talk with Rob about, just about their relationship and the things they've been going through, why does she go get Kim? Like, why not go get the sister that he's the closest to? Why she didn't call Chloe? You know what I mean? Like, I understand, like, in the confessional, China said that her and Kim basically have the same type of approach to Rob. It's more of a tough love kind of a thing. But how well does that work? Like, how close is Kim and Rob? Like, really? So for me, this whole Kim and China situation in this episode, just I wasn't really into it. I would rather her had went to Chloe, but at the same time, maybe that would have been conflicting because Chloe is extremely protective and close to her brother, and I'm not saying she sees China as a threat, but I know that in the beginning she was a little resentful of China because China was the one that was able to get inside of his mind and help bring him out of his shell. Like, Chloe was doing so much for Rob, and he still was not doing too well. So it took someone else outside of the family to bring him out of that. So I think Chloe was a little in her feelings about that. So maybe that's what China feels from her. So she went, maybe I shouldn't do it. Because look, think about it. She'll pick up the phone and call Courtney. She'll pick up the phone and call Kim. But she won't call Chloe. Not yet, though, that we've seen so far in this series. So I don't know. There may be something to that. In person they talk, but she don't pick up the phone and just call Chloe. But anyway, so they were on this mission in this episode to get some DNA from Rob to do a DNA test. Now, I know you're thinking, why in the world is she getting a DNA test? But it's because the people on the internet and the blogs, they were saying things like, since Rob deleted all of his social media stuff, that it's because he found out that she cheated on him and the baby may not necessarily be his. And so she wants to shut down all the rumors. And if he's questioning anything, she wants to shut that down too. So she goes and tries to get some of his DNA. So her and Kim sneak in, the house, and she goes and gets the toothbrush to try to get DNA from it. And as they're leaving, she drops the toothbrush. And he's like, "What are y'all doing? Like, I know y'all up to something. Y'all don't never come over here to my house. So, what are you doing?" So, she finally told him, "Look, I'm getting a DNA test." And he said, "Well, why you didn't just tell me? Like, my family is so crazy. Things like this doesn't shock me. It doesn't make me upset. There are worse things that could happen." So, he said, "I'll just do it with you. Like, we'll just get a DNA test. It ain't no problem." So, they go and get the DNA test. And then later on, when they get the results, of course, he's 99.9% the father. So what? Who cares? I assumed that it was his anyway. China don't seem like the cheating type, but she does seem like the if you don't get your stuff together, I'm gonna leave you type. Okay. So anyway, another thing that happened in this episode was Scott sits down and he talks to Rob, and he suggested he goes to therapy. Now, at first, Rob was a little hesitant because he's like, "Who are you to tell me that I need to be going to therapy?" But it's like, I mean, look who's telling you to go to therapy. Now, y'all know how I felt. Like in the beginning, I was like, "Why is Scott here? He's not going to help. Who cares about his opinion?" But now that the show has been going on, he's kind of growing on me again, and I see kind of what his role is in this show because he's there to kind of push Rob out of his comfort zone a little bit just as a friend because he doesn't really have too many people around him that are his friends. He pushes his friends away, but Scott is more like family. You're not going to be able to get rid of him. You can't just ignore him. He's going to be at family functions. He's going to be around. these are your niece and nephew's father. He's going to be there. So, okay. Plus, he's been there and done that and will do more. So, he knows all about the counseling and trying to better himself and get over tough times. So, I guess that's his role, why he's there. So he convinces Rob to go see a therapist. So he goes and the therapist actually comes to Chris's house and they sit down and they talk. And he gets a little bit of clarity from her. And she tells him that, relationships are compromised and you can't just up and leave if something goes wrong. You have to try to make it work because they kind of had this whirlwind relationship. It started off very hot and heavy and they got pregnant and now they're trying to be in a relationship and they have to really get to know each other and try to make it work. So he sits down and he talks to Chyna and she understands it and she says, now that she knows how he feels about certain things, she's going to try to work on it. So I think that that's a good thing. With any relationship, communication is key. And if they can learn to communicate with each other better and not get angry and be vengeful and childish and all that stuff, I think they'll be okay. You can tell that they really do love one another. So I hope that they are able to make it out of this whole mess. And the last thing that happened was Rob decided that he wanted to have a family dinner. Now, this is a huge step for him because he's been secluded from his family for years now, and it's been a long time since they all sat down and broke bread with one another. So this was a good moment. He sat down and he talked to them. The whole family was there, and Chyna was there, and he just basically told them he knows that he needs to stop running away and hiding and blocking them and shutting them out. It's not healthy, and he's going to try to do better. And so he also said in his confessional that he forgot how good it was just to be around his family and sit down and laugh and talk. And it's funny how they were sitting. It was like Rob, Chyna, and Chloe. Like they were all sitting next to one another, and Chyna was in the middle. And then on the other side, it was Courtney and Kim and Chris and what's Chris's boyfriend's name? Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot his name, but he was there too. So they all, and Scott was there. So they all had a really good dinner, and it was a really good moment. I hope that somehow he is able to come out of his shell more and stop shutting people out, because when that baby comes, like he won't be able to do that. Tell me what do you think about it? Do you think that Rob is going to be able to clean up his act and be more mature about his feelings and emotions when he gets angry, about him running? Do you think that he'll be able to stick around and try to stick it out with Chyna and his family and just try to be more positive and confident within himself? Do you think it's possible? I think it's very possible. I think he can get back to being the man that he was. But he's always been an emotional boy. Let me stop calling him a boy. He's a man. He's always been an emotional man. He's always been the type that he needs to talk through things. You could tell that he's more sensitive than the girls. I don't know how that happened, but I mean, it just did. I mean, I don't think it makes him any less of a man or anything like that. He just has a different personality. And so I think that Chyna has to be mindful of that and respect it. But he also has to be mindful that she is used to people up and leaving her. And she's willing to just let people go because, come on, if you're going to leave, then I have to be strong enough to keep myself together for me and my children and keep it pushing. I can't let one person stop my show. So she's kind of in that state too. So I think they just have to compromise and really work on it together to make it work. So if I left anything out, please drop it in the comments below and we'll keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for checking out my video. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe because I will be here every week talking about this show. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.